loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives.
Recent times, there are a lot of terms that people just keep hearing and they wonder what it means. The whole idea of woman empowerment, what does that mean? Is it the same thing as being a feminist? What does that mean? That's what we're going to unpack in this episode of Making It Last podcast. Welcome. I'm your host, Noreen Daly, and this is where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And we're going to be unpacking that with Gifty Enright. She's an author, speaker, coach. Welcome, Gifty.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the idea of you being a coach. What's your focus?
So, for years and years and years, I worked in corporate, and I one day found myself standing in a doctor's office, clutching a spreadsheet of 14 symptoms, things that, I'd been struggling with, and my husband had had enough. And so literally I had to go and get medical care. And the options I was presented with, I thought there's got to be a different way of living, And so based on that, I went on a journey and completely overhauled my lifestyle. And I can tell you now straight in the eye, I don't have those 14 symptoms anymore. And this was almost 20 years ago. But anyway, in terms of women's empowerment, I was in this predicament because I was a working mother. And as a working mother, I felt that I had to do everything. I was fiercely competitive, and whatever a man could do, I could do better. And I was out to prove a point. And the fact that I had children was not going to stop me in my tracks. I wasn't going to miss a beat. Now, what nobody told me was that if I carried on like that, I was going to be burnt out and be clutching that spreadsheet of 14 symptoms. And so for me, women's empowerment is getting women to understand how important we are. Because once we do that, we live in a different way. Because a lot of the time, we think that the society we live in makes women think that our lives are supposed to be in service of other lives, like your children, your husband, the aging parents, the aunt. We never really stop to think about ourselves and our impact and what we bring to the table. So for me, women's empowerment is for us knowing, understanding how pivotal we are, how important we are, what we bring to the table, so that we can negotiate our lives that way.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What are some of the ways to encourage women empowerment? Yeah. Well, what are some of the ways?
For me, boundaries. That is, boundaries. So that is number one. And it's just boundaries with your children, with your partners, with your employees, but you can't know your boundaries, come up with them and enforce them if you haven't worked on your self-esteem. And so for me, to be an empowered woman, your self-esteem has to be tip-top. It can't be compromised. You cannot be there on the back foot. You cannot be there thinking that somebody is doing you a favor by paying you to do a job. You're there with your skills. You're supplying a service. Nobody's doing anybody any favors. You're supplying a service and you're getting paid for it. That is what healthy self-esteem looks like. And that sort of thought should resonate in all your relationships, because you're bringing value, and you can only know your value and your worth when you've worked on your self-esteem.
Okay. What else? I'm loving that you started out with boundaries, though. But
yeah. So and so also in terms of empowerment, again, this is what I say to women. Because really, we are amazing people. And every woman knows that we can do 10 things at the same time, right? But that is an asset and a liability at the same time. And I always say to the women I coach, the fact that you can doesn't mean you should. And so, yes, you can do the 10 things, but it doesn't mean you should, because you're going to burn yourself out. You have to allow other people to take their share of the burden. You have to allow other people in, and delegation is not a sign of failure, right? So that's the first thing. Delegation is not a sign of failure, and asking for help is actually, take self-esteem to ask for help, because if you feel like, oh my God, if I ask for help, they're thinking I'm not coping, your self-esteem is not where it's supposed to be. And not asking for help actually stops others from getting close to you and offering you the help as well. So it affects your relationship when you don't know how to ask for help. And this is where you end up isolated, feeling you got nobody to talk to, when you could be developing a social network to help yourself. And an empowered person is not looking around to blame anybody for anything. So it's accountability, accountability, accountability. Right? So you take responsibility for your life where you are. That is an empowered person. You ask for what you deserve. This is what I mean in the workplace, as in you're not doing anybody a favor. You're there supplying a service, and you're being paid for that. And the boundaries, you do not allow people to walk all over your boundaries. But it all starts with knowing your value and your self-esteem. Hello, everybody. My name is Gifty Enright. I'm an author, speaker, and coach. And I'm delighted to be here with Noreen Daly on her podcast. And we're going to have a word with our partners.
Langdo Language Institute was created to meet your language and communication needs. All of our packages were created just for you. We are passionate about language and dedicated to your success. We offer the CSEC English program, the Study Buddy program, the Get Ahead with English program, and the Business Communication program. Contact us at 767-285-0938 or email us at landolanguage@gmail.com, because the real question is, how can we help you?
Photography is an art. But more so, photography must come from the heart. Precious moments, priceless times. Take a pic and know it will turn out fine.
BMC Photography JA. Beautiful moments captured. Let's go.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors: Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics, or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
Welcome back.
How can one? Okay, let me create a scenario. You've been socialized, or you've constantly been fed a certain narrative 18, 20 odd years, or maybe even more. You're not at the point you're realizing, okay, this is not how I want my life to continue. But it's not so easy to go against that narrative that you've heard all this time and really work on your self-esteem, what are some of your tips, so to speak, to say, hey, it is possible to go against that narrative?
Yeah, find a mentor. Find a mentor. It's a start, because when you see something is accessible to your psychology, right? So like in my coaching program, when I have new women join and they see the women that are about to graduate, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how confident she is. I'm like, they didn't start like that. Right? But it's because you come in there, you meet other women, there is that diversity of thought in terms of where they are in their progress, and people that which that I would never have asked my husband to do that. Oh God, no, I can't say that to my mom. But it is more about getting the communication skills that you need to be able to have those difficult conversations that you need to have.
Yes.
Because an empowered person has difficult conversations. Now I forget, somebody said this, I don't know who actually this quote comes from, but you do the hard things, you have an easy life, right? So if you want an easy life, do the hard things. Otherwise, you will be having a hard life because you're choosing the easy way out. And so it's the same with your relationships and your communications. If you have the tough conversations, people know where they stand with you and they're not violating your boundaries, which gives you space. And you're there, you're delegating, everybody's helping. It enriches your relationships as well, because you're going in there as an authentic person who actually expresses what people need to hear. You're not in there to take out, to minimize people, because you yourself are not feeling threatened. So, long answer to your question, as in, how do people go about developing their self-esteem? Get a mentor, get somebody you admire, somebody you think is doing what you would like to do, and build a relationship. And normally people are really flattered when somebody reaches out to them to say, can you please help me?
True.
So, and in society, mind you, I was actually born in Ghana, so I grew up in Ghana, although I've lived in the UK forever. But we have that system of, the elders there, they're wise and with the wisdom, so you can ask somebody. But again, with that, is that if they have faulty thinking and faulty reasoning, that gets cascaded down. Like you were saying, as if you haven't met anybody who's enforcing those self-esteems and they're telling you, no, if you're in an abusive marriage, you have to stay in there because you can't come out of it, and all that nonsense, right? Then that is what is coming down. So it's find people who are actually modeling the behavior, who you would like to be, and get closer to them. So that's the first thing. And also there are books everywhere, by the way, if you wanted to, there are books and courses you need to do. But finding a mentor makes it accessible to your psychology. Reading is good, but that does not result in transformation. You can have the information and do nothing with it as well. And so it's you yourself having the courage to start putting whatever you're learning into practice. Like in my program, I make the women go and have a difficult conversation. It's non-negotiable. You have to go have that difficult conversation, and it doesn't always go well. But when they come back, we can troubleshoot, because they have me there as support. What did you say? Why this? Why this? Why this? Okay, we put it together. Here's your new script. Go. Right. And so if you're forced to do it with backup, it's easier to do. You go, you do it. And then next time you think, I can communicate, I can have, difficult conversation. And that's that skill built right there. And once you do that, that contributes to your self-esteem, right? Anything you master contributes to your self-esteem. And I would also say, what you don't master masters you. So who do you want to be master?
What do you do?
How do you mean? For self-esteem or for what?
No, just in general, to ensure that you stay or remain empowered.
Oh my
because
God.
I wouldn't want somebody to think that, okay, all right, so I do these things and then I feel this way, but then, I will always feel this way. I'm sure you have low moments as well.
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
Oh God,
so what
yes.
do you
do? So yes, I'm not an even keel all the time. I mean, and in my book, Octopus on a Treadmill, I actually lay out what people should do, in terms of routine for their lives and all that. I lay it all out there. But in terms of what I do, for me, it's actually my daily routine. It's so important, really so important, because it starts from how I'm feeling physically. Because if you're feeling all over the place, it's hard to have a difficult conversation. It's hard to feel like you're in control when you're in pain, right? If you don't have a strong body, it's hard for the mind to be strong as well, right? So that is very important in terms of daily routine and stuff like that. And I meditate. That is something that, again, is non-negotiable. I've said to my children, I'm not allowed to come out of my bedroom unless I've meditated, and they're not allowed to come in unless the house is on fire, right? So those what we're talking about, boundaries are some of the boundaries, right? And that, doing that first thing in the morning, in terms of my morning routine, where I meditate and then I do my exercise, that sorts out my mind and my body, which means that I'm going into the day strong. So does that mean I will not take knocks in the day? Absolutely not. Things will happen, whatever. But you can roll with the punches because you have a strong body and a strong mind. And also, I am all about continuous improvement. I'm constantly learning because I'm just one of those people. I love learning anyway. And so new research, whatever it is, I'm always about continuous improvement, right? But the 4 different things I spoke about in terms of the physical, the mental, the books you're reading, what you're putting in your head, you know, how you're mentoring yourself. Because I have mentors, do you know? There are things I still want to do and people that are doing it that I'm not. And I'm like, help me here, right? So this is it. Every good coach has a coach as well. So it is that. And I talked about the spiritual angle as in, you know, I meditate. And when I'm stressed out and I'm like, oh my God, I journal. I have to get it out because it helps me think. It gives me mental clarity because when something is in your head, it takes up a lot of space and it seems bigger than it is because sometimes you think, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. I've got 20 million things to do. And you go and write them down and it's only 3. It's not 20 million, it's only 3, right? And so this is where journaling helps me process my thought and it gives me clarity of thought.
As we're wrapping up, any final thoughts and just some ways to just encourage women empowerment? And in your final thoughts, just give the distinction between the whole idea of empowerment as against being a feminist. Because when people think that term, it has negative connotations.
Yeah. So for me, empowerment is an individualistic thing. It's you yourself and you feeling empowered in your goals, in your body, in where you want to go, etc., etc. And this is being an empowered person, feeling you have a voice, you know, feeling you can say whatever you need to say. And that is what empowerment means to me. Right? Being a feminist means that you're there waving the flag, fighting for women's rights and all that. I do that too, but you don't have to be an empowered person to be a feminist. 2 different things. You don't have to be an empowered person to be a feminist. You know, you're a feminist because you subscribe to an ideology and you're ready to go stand there, picket fence and wave a flag, right? But to be an empowered person, you accepting that responsibility, accepting that the buck stops with you, and you are going to look at ways in your life to up level, you know, to be operating at a level that makes you proud of yourself. That for me is empowerment.
One final thing. What's the name of your book? Because you made a reference to it, but you didn't tell us. What's the name of your book?
Octopus on a Treadmill.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Women, Health, Success and Happiness. That's the subtitle, but it's Octopus on a Treadmill. And I lay out lots of these things I've talked about, and I actually talk about my own personal story and all the rest of it, and I give lots of tips in there.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Gifty. It was my absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Making it last is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives.